Welcome to the screening of the award-winning documentary, The New Black, directed by Yoruba Richin. This film documents activists, families, and clergy on both sides of the campaign to legalize gay marriage and examines homophobia in the African American community institutional pillar, the Black Church. Centering on the historic fight to win marriage equality in Maryland, The New Black takes viewers into the pews, onto the streets, and provides a seat at the kitchen table as it looks at how African American community grapples with the issue of LGBT rights. Funding for this event was made possible in part by a grant awarded to the Office of New Student Programs and the Office of Multicultural Student Center, by the New Black and the HRC Empowering Equality on HBCU Campus program, which is a partnership between Promised Land Films and Human Rights Campaign. We'd like to thank our many partners for their generous support and commitment to increasing diversity and inclusion on campus. Our student group, which is Proud People Representing Our Underlying Differences, which is the Gay Straight Alliance here. Also QPOC, which is a community organization, Queer People of Color Collective. And then we'll have several other organizations represented in our panel this evening. After the screening, we have surveys we'd like for you to complete to support the Office of New Student Programs and the Multicultural Student Center's ability to increase our campus efforts towards greater safety, advancement, and inclusion on our campus. Additionally, your surveys will add to the national database that has been developed and maintained by Promised Land Films to advance conversations and organizing efforts related to race, LGBT rights, and religion. We invite you to sit back to enjoy the film. Please stay with us after the film concludes to share your thoughts and join in the conversation.
And good evening, family. My name is Taryn J. Mitchell. I am representing Taryn J. Speaks, and I am your facilitator for this evening. First, please give a warm round of applause for our panel. We're going to get right into our content for this evening. Any of the panelists can start. One of the things that I found particularly intriguing about the movie was, what did you all think about the fact that there was a straight woman leading the charge for this effort in Maryland? Anyone can please start this.
I will. Actually, when I see situations like that, I look at situations like that as an evolution of change and growth. Society is what it is, and you don't have to be to support and love and respect people for whomever they are as individuals. And to me, that was one of the most profound and prolific type of situations, just to know that there was a straight woman who was actually at the forefront of all of that, because it's very important in a situation like this.
I would like to say that I think it's very key and essential that there is always allies, because we do it better together. And a lot of times we don't realize that united we stand and divided we fall. And so the more people that you have on your side, whether they are a part of or even understand, it speaks volumes to those who oppose. And I think that's what the world needs more of, is that unity, that no matter where we stand on the issue, that there is a unified force, that we are all one nation under God.
Now that you brought up unity, one of the overriding principles that we saw in the movie was this narrative about the Black family and the narrative about how the Black church actually impacts the Black family. So, does our religious affiliation or our religious indoctrination hinder our acceptance of LGBT rights or understanding? Is that an actual fact?
I don't know if it's a fact or not, but I think that it does make a lot of difference, especially when you grow up in a black church and that's all you hear for like forever.
What is it that we're hearing though?
Is that it's wrong, that, you know, if you are participating in that type of behavior, you're going to hell, you know, like that's stuff that you hear all the time. So, I mean, I would imagine it would influence you to, I guess, think negatively about it.
My problem with it, with the way that it's impacted the rights of LGBTQ people, is that if you watch in the beginning when he's saying basically that, you know, people from the white clergy members threw money in power positions at the black church in order to get them to vote against this bill, they basically bought these people. And I have a problem with the fact that the church got bought. And I have a problem with the fact that when they're like, you know, we're redefining marriage, we're redefining family, we've already, as people, redefined family. Because we're descendants of the people whose proverb is, it takes a village to raise a child. So it's not like all of a sudden it's not like we were in Africa and we had this one man, one woman, 2.5 kids and a dog in a hut situation. We didn't have that. We had extended family. That's the nature of our people. And so for us to come here, bring that extended family situation with us to cope with the horrors of slavery, to cope with the horrors of Reconstruction, to cope with the Great Migration and all these other things, and then he says we're redefined. No, we've defined who we are as families. So there's no such thing as redefining it. If, like right now, I have 5 members of my chosen family. My village is here supporting me right now, and I don't know where I would be without that. But I do know that what we can't do is let white clergy members come and tell us and what we gonna do, who we need to be based on them and their perception of white Jesus. No, I have a lot of problems with that in the video.
I want to say that some things in society creeps themselves in there, and then we begin to kind of accept it as fact, even if it isn't. For example, we said, some folks have put out there that the #1 issue in the black community in the black race is the black family. Well, that's not a fact. That's just what we've come for several people, influential people have come to say is. Me personally, I think the #1 issue in the black race is loving ourselves. We have a big problem with loving ourselves. We hate ourselves, right? And so we need to fix that. Change doesn't happen in a vacuum, but I think it's not the black family that's the issue. It's loving ourselves, right? And I identify as a black gay man, and as a black gay man, my process to being able to sit on this panel today was a process of not trying to find family, but to try to find myself and to love myself. And now I can love my family. Now I can focus on what a family looks like, you know, from my perception. So I just want to add that.
So one of the things that I asked my very apostolic cousin, who never wore makeup or earrings, but you know, somehow they always end up pregnant. Sorry, it's just always true. And I asked, there seems to be a large amount of teenage pregnancy for a sect of the Christian family, and I asked, how does this happen? If you're not allowed to wear makeup, you don't wear earrings, you're not allowed to wear pants, how does this happen? And she said, because we never talk about sex. So that's where I'm going with that. So I wanted to know, because in the movie, there was a line, I don't know if you all heard it, but they talked about the silence of sexuality. Wow. So how does the silence of sexuality impact the quest for LGBT rights?
Well, I'll start with that, especially coming from a spiritual aspect. The silence destroys our quest. because where there is no conversation, there is no change. And so a lot of times, one of the things about, especially in the African-American black church, you know, we tend to be a day late and a dollar short. You know, we're supposed to be leading the change. We're supposed to be the change agents, but because of misinterpretations, miscommunications, again, that self-denial, that lack of self-confidence and self-love, we've not been able to address the real issues. And so we're always trying to catch up with what we should be in front of. And so I think that it starts with that dialogue that we're not having, but that I understand the validity of why we're not having that. Because when you don't have when you do have conversations, the last thing you want to do is to be ostracized or to be criticized. So the people who would have that conversation tend to likely tend to back up because of that dogma that comes with it. You know, we've got tons of people in here who are bold, who are courageous, who know who they are, who know what they want to be, and who know, you know, all of these great things. But when they get in front of people, they allow the fears or the misconceptions of people to push them back. I say, even with the young lady who was leading a lot of the initiative, when she talked to her aunt, she became very back in, like, you know, she was forefront, you know, we're gonna make a change. But when she went to talk to her foster mother, she humbled herself because there was that fear. And I think that's a lot of us, you know, we want everybody, I'm this, I'm that, but then there is still that fear of what does who I am mean to anybody else.
I want to piggyback on that, and I appreciate that. I just want to be kind of intentional about some of the words that we're using. So when you're talking about the silencing of sexuality, that much sounds like suppression, right? So we all know, or we can come to know that suppression leads to what we're doing, that internalized self-hatred, that internalized homophobia, that internalized, you know, racism, all of those things. And I just wanted to kind of lift up that being LGBTQ is not what kind of sex you have. You know, everybody had, you know, we got girls kissing girls all day, but that don't mean they gay. Right. So at the end of the day, like, me identifying as a queer woman is very much representative of who I choose to live this life with, and not what kind of sex I'm having. So I kind of want to take a step back. If we're going to be positioning ourselves and having this panel, the heteronormativity as to what these questions are being asked, I'm going to go ahead and push back against. Because very much what Melinda, who is my chosen family, speaks to is in the ways that we create the family. So you have somebody in the movie talking about we should get, like, gay folks should get into how the black folks have created family, and I would say that I am black and I have created a tribe. So it's like that, like, you can't be black and gay and honor the intersections of that. So what I would like to say is that the communities most vulnerable and the furthest marginalized within the margins, we uniquely have a cultural way of how we care for each other, how we recreate family in the ways of the system that does not support us in doing that. So I kind of just wanted to put that in that.
Can you expound upon that just a little bit more in terms of when you talked about creating the tribe?
Sure. How we enact queerness comes out in a lot of different ways. Like mentorship is a culturally specific practice of care. There's no blueprint on how you grow up to be gay, and because people are not having these conversations at their tables, and, you know, it would be like an older butch teaching a younger butch how to tie a tie. It would be like, it's a way how a femme might go ahead and nurture an entire people, but they're not necessarily like the biological. It's just like a lot of those ways that are not black, they're black gay. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of our culture that we honor as black people that's not just black, it's black and gay. So I just wanted to kind of say that, like, we can't like, when we say, like, Black Lives Matter, everybody, you know, Black Lives Matter, right? Black Lives Matter was created by 2 queer people. 2 out of 3 of the people that created the Black Lives Matter movement and the hashtag were queer. So what I'm trying to say is, well, we take ownership. It is a collective history, and we need to honor that. But there's specific way of beings, how we share information, how we share our oral histories that are not just black, they're black and gay. So when I'm talking about speaking to a tribe, what I think about is that we as LGBTQ folks had like an erasure of history, right? But I do want to affirm as a queer black woman that slavery and post-slavery, it's like, this is what liberation looks like. It's me enacting queerness and having body autonomy and saying I have the freedom of choosing who I share my life with and who I share my bed with. That's what liberation looks like. So kind of centering that and the ways that we build our communities, how I interact in the world, that's enacting queerness. And I just think that it's a beautiful depiction of what black freedom and black liberation looks like.
So I think April really touched on something. Daryl, can you go further into how that importance of intersectionality really works?
No, I can't.
Okay.
But I do want to augment on something and I do want to open it up to someone else on the panel.
All right.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I would say something real simple and connecting what April just said though, y'all, which is silence is violence, right? And I do some anti-racism work, and what we say in that workshop is that when power, where racism is quieted, right? Racism thrives, right? So wherever power sits, so in this model for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, cis folks, where it's not where heterosexual power drives the conversation, homophobia thrives. Does that make sense? So it's important that we continue to do things like this to make sure that it gets out to the community. And but I want to open up to that.
I can expound upon Queer People of Color Collective is intersectionality in action. And what it is basically saying that I walk into the space with all of my identities and I refuse to forsake any of them. I cannot have a conversation just being a black person because I am black, I am poor, I am, you know, queer, all of those things. So when people oppress you, you don't know how people are going to oppress you because we all follow along the lines of who's an oppressor and who's the oppressed, that continuum. So I don't know if they're not giving me the job because I'm gay. I don't know because they're not giving me a job because I'm a woman. All I know is I don't have the job. But intersectionality tells me that I'm viewing everything at the same time. And that's what intersectionality is. For me, that's how I define it. So the fact that you can retain yourself in your multitudes of identities because we're not, nobody's saying, you know what I'm saying, like marriage is an issue and building family is an issue, but we're talking about black and gay, and so the intersections of those issues.
So Trey, what role do young people, particularly college students, what role do you all play in shaping attitudes around LGBT acceptance and inclusive policy?
Well, we definitely play a major role in educating those that have come before us and what it is that we need to broaden them. Because I know for me, and I'm going to share my personal story, it was very difficult for my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt to accept who I am. And I don't have men in my family, just those 3 women. So when I told my mother, she told my grandma told my aunt. And so the first thing they collectively think, I had to be raped as a child. And I had to quickly inform them that no, you don't have to be raped. You don't have to be, nothing bad has to happen in order for me to live my life. And I had to educate her, this is not a choice either. And I often ask her, when did you choose to date a man? When did you choose to marry your husband? I don't choose to like a man. That's who I am. I didn't choose to be engaged to a man. That's just something I did because I felt that in my heart. We can always educate as young people the older generation because it's very possible. If I can change a 65-year-old woman's mind about who I am and the differences that we can agree on, I'm pretty sure we can go further than that. We can get multiple generations. And the fight is always there. And every day, somebody's mind is always turned. Because I show people who I am. and I make them fall in love with who I am. Not the title of being a gay man, but loving me for who I am, and the gay man comes with it. And if you can't accept that, then you can't accept me.
Anyone else?